down today, man. Never twirl with your hat around your finger, man. Just your hair, man. Oh. Oh. Oh, I almost forgot, man. Just 1 minute, man. Oh, man. Oh. Oh. Oh, man. Oh. Okay, man. Now I am ready, man. A short story, man. I was driving back from Chicago, man, and I stopped at this rest stop to get a snack, man. You know how you get hungry and you get thirsty, man. You know how it is. And out of the corner of my eye, man, I saw something more rad than a billionaire. It was a girl, man, and she was walking like this. And I swear to it, man. Yet it'd be hard for me to imagine a person looking happier. Blows your mind, man, doesn't it? I want you to reach your fullest potential too, man.
if you're going to pull apart a culture, a society, it would be to question that very architecture.
That's what you go after.
Architecture.
If you want to reorder everything, you start with
All right, are my feet in or out of this shot? Well, then you're gonna have to deal with the ridiculous flip-flops. Sorry about that. When I talk about peak performance, I often define peak performance as getting our biology to work for us rather than against us. What I'm really talking about are the systems underneath what we call motivation, learning, creativity, and flow. And flow is an optimized state of consciousness where we feel our best and we perform our best. More specifically, it refers to any of those moments of rapt attention and total absorption. You're so focused on the task at hand, so focused on what you're doing, everything else just seems to disappear. Action and awareness are going to start to emerge. Your sense of self, sense of self-consciousness, the voice in your head, your inner critic are all going to diminish. Time is going to dilate, which is a fancy way of saying it's going to pass strangely. One of the reasons learning goes up so much in flow is because it's this huge cocktail dump of 5 or 6 of the most important feel-good neurochemicals the brain can produce, and we tend to remember things that happen in flow states. In fact, for most people, if you're looking at positive memories, right, things you remember and that are really strong, that are really locked into memory, chances are they're things that took place in a flow state. There has been a lot of work because of this very mechanism in using flow to override and rewrite PTSD. The Army tested a combination of talk therapy and surfing. Surfing is an experience that's packed with flow triggers. 5 weeks of surfing twice a week and regular talk therapy sessions after the surf sessions was enough to significantly reduce or completely remove symptoms of PTSD and lower people's need for medication or get them off medication completely. PTSD is basically a very strong memory that's been written and everything sort of flows back to it, and flow seems to be able to override that memory because it's such a potent neurochemical dump. We know that flow has been very useful in the treatment of addiction. There are, for example, a number of rehab centers, usually aimed at teenagers, where to get kids off drugs, they're taking them into the mountains and giving them outdoor high flow experiences. Knowing what we now know about the way that experiences can produce different neurochemicals, it doesn't seem too odd that sometime in the future we're going to start to see doctors or psychologists prescribing experiences. I always tell my friends when their relationships end, the easiest way to override heartbreak is to go skydiving. The problem with heartbreak or grief or all those things is basically every memory you have goes back to the person you just lost, right? That's why, you walk through your house and everything reminds you of the one that got away. You actually have to override the memory. You have to have an experience that's more powerful than that. Skydiving and the kind of immediate deep flow state it tends to produce in most people will tend to override that. I'm not saying we're going to go to the doctor for heartbreak and they're going to prescribe skydiving. but it would work. And there might come a time in the future where we actually think that way.
The real challenge for breaking through usually is that we have the second element, a story that gets in the way. Because our story is nothing but a set of beliefs we tell ourselves over and over again. Some of you are in a really tough place. Some of you are in a great place. You just want to do better. Some are in a tough place. If you're really in a tough place, I can promise you, I've spent my life dealing with people in the worst situations in life. And there's some people they've lost their sight, they've lost their arms, they've lost their family, and they have the most joyous, happy, amazing, extraordinary life. It is not life that controls you. What controls us is the life you focus on. In fact, jot this down if you would. Write down, I'm not experiencing life. I'm experiencing the life I focus on. Because whatever you focus on is real to you, it becomes your story. But when your story is, I've tried everything, then you don't even try anymore. You can have the answer right in front of you and not see it. I'll give you an example of storytelling. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if you ever had experience like this. We were really poor and I worked hard and I had to go to the store, get the groceries on my bike, bring it, make the meal, put it down. I finally sit down to eat and my mom or dad would say, get me the salt. And I'm starving, I'm just starting to eat. So I go, I don't know where the salt is. I was not lying. I didn't know the exact GPS location of the salt. And they say, you know the salt is, get the salt. I was like, I don't know what it is, get the salt. I don't know, go get the salt. So I get up and what am I saying? I don't know what the salt is, I don't know what the salt is. And I open the cover and they go, it's on the second shelf. I don't know what the salt is. I look, I go, it's not here. It's not there. My dad walks right beside me, reaches right in front of my face and goes, what is this? Well, I was telling myself a story over and over again. I don't know what the salt is. And so my eyes saw the salt, but my brain didn't perceive it. It created in psychology what's called a scotoma, a blind spot. You'll never use the right strategy if you have a limiting story. Your story says nothing works. So when I show you the strategy, oh, I've tried that, or, nothing like that works. That works for rich people. The story is the glue that gets you stuck. What you want to do is divorce the story of your limits, of your limitations, and marry the truth of your real abilities. Now, some people get a divorce and then they go visit with their divorced one over and over. Don't want to visit with your old beliefs. You just want to cut it off and move forward. Now, if you got the right story, you'll figure out the right strategy. Even if I don't show it to you, you'll find the right strategy with the right story. But your story is affected by what you should be starting with, and most people get to last, if ever. Change your story, change your life. If your story is, man, I'm always at the bottom of the pile and I try everything and nothing ever works and I've been through this and that, it may be true, but that's the wrong story. The better story is, I've gone through all these experiences that have made me stronger and now I'm ready. I'm ready for the next step. Here's what I'm gonna do. And that is your state, your mental, emotional state. You gotta get yourself in state. If you've ever been at home and you're like this, you're like, oh man, I know, I gotta figure this out. I gotta turn my life around. I'm like, oh man. In this state, you will never get the answer. When you're in a great state, things flow. Now you can change your state. The way your mind and emotion is working, that's where you want to start. You want to change this order. If I can get you in a radically different state, like you see we do in the seminars, and we're going full tilt for 12 hours a day, and most people wouldn't sit for a 3-hour movie someone spent $300 million on, and now we got 20,000 people in a stadium or 40,000 people around the earth digitally, and we're all going for it, and everybody's giving their all. In that energized state, now we can create a new belief or a new story. Now when I show you what to do, you'll do it. The state you're in affects your story. If you got the right story and you're in the right state, you have a different story about your life. You then come up with the answers, the strategies. And Tom Brady's down by 10 points. It's the fourth quarter. There's 2 minutes left, and he comes back to win the Super Bowl. How does he do it? If you watch, he goes into this zone. And it's like nothing stops him. Well, that zone is a surge in testosterone that explodes. That allows you to focus, and whatever you learn, you remember. It brings an emotional connection. It's like if I asked you, where were you on 9/11? How many remember the moment you heard about 9/11, where you were sitting, who was around you? Because information with emotion is remembered. If I asked you, where you on 8/11, unless something cool happened or something really terrible, you have no idea. So we're gonna use our motion of our bodies, emotion, sound, to produce this, and that's also how we get the testosterone to explode. But here's what's interesting. Testosterone can create stress also. When we go into this state, they call it championship biochemistry. When you do this state over and over, you'll start experiencing it by the night or midday through this day if you play full out. You'll start feeling like I'm tired and you push yourself through it, and then this surge will happen. But then cortisol, which is the stress hormone, drops, which never happens. So you get rid of the things that would stop you, and you only have what drives you forward. And once you've learned how to trigger this, you'll be able to do this for the rest of your life. But I want you to know I'm not into positive thinking. It's not about rah-rah. I don't believe in positive. I never taught positive thinking. I believe in intelligence. I believe in seeing things as they are, but not worse than it is. Because most people make it worse than it is, don't they? Why do people make it worse than it is? Like, oh, it'll never work, it'll never happen. Why do they do that? Because they're afraid of failing. We're all afraid if we fail, that says something even deeper, that we're not enough. And if we're not enough, that feels like emotional death to most people. So rather than put ourselves on the line, we come up with a reason why we can't do it, because it'll never work, it'll never happen. But the bottom line is, if you play full out, you'll see these same biochemical changes. And they don't just happen today. Once you do them again and again and again, you'll have access. Now you still have to do your part.
We live in a world where the threats that we face are probabilistic. Terrorists might attack, the economy might nosedive, right? These are probabilistic dangers. The problem is the brain is designed not to turn off the fear response until a danger is gone completely. But probabilistic dangers never are gone completely, so we tend to be a little more hyper-reactive. So how do you tune up the nervous system rather than having to reach for psychopharmaceuticals? On a certain level, we have a drugstore in our brain. The neurochemicals that show up in flow, so dopamine, norepinephrine, anandamide, endorphins, and serotonin, if you were to try to cocktail the street drug version of that, right? You're trying to blend like heroin and speed and coke and acid and weed, and point is, you can't do it. It turns out the brain can cocktail all of them at once, which is why people will prefer flow to almost any experience on Earth. It's our favorite experience. It's the most addictive experience on Earth. Why? Because it cocktails 5 or 6 of the largest pleasure drugs the brain can produce. We're all capable of so much more than we know. That is a commonality across the board. So it's the largest lesson that 30 years in studying peak performance has taught me. And one of the big reasons is we're all hardwired for flow, and flow is a massive amplification of what's possible for ourselves. There's something in psychology and neuroscience we talk about as the banister effect. This is the idea that you have to believe something is possible before it becomes possible. It's named after Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister was the first person to run a sub-4 mile, and before he did it, this was a great, crazy impossible.
May 6th, a British medical student, Roger Bannister, earned sports immortality, the first man to break the legendary 4-minute barrier, running a mile in 3 minutes, 59 4/10 seconds.
They really thought the first person who did it was going to die from it. It was a total impossible. Bannister runs the first sub-4 mile, and then a month later, somebody breaks his record. And then a couple months after that, somebody shatters that new record, and within 5 years, teenagers have done it. So you got to ask yourself, the hell happened, right? The same physical requirements for running a sub-4 mile haven't changed. All that's changed is the mental frame we built around the feet. What used to be impossible is now seen as possible, and we start thinking about it, and the brain thinks in pictures, and it starts working out, well, what would that look like? And then you start asking questions, well, how would you do it? How would you train it? And it becomes a little more probable. What it essentially says is that, look, there's a very, very, very tight coupling between our psychology and our physiology. And if we can pre-wire our brain with the patterns we're gonna perform ahead of time, when we actually start to perform those patterns, you're gonna get dopamine from pattern matching. It may help drive us into flow. And flow is an optimized state of consciousness where we feel our best and we perform our best.
This shocking experiment on rats teaches you more about success and how to get it than any textbook. So in 1957, this professor, he ran a dark experiment. He dropped rats into a pool to see how long they'd swim before drowning. Most gave up after just 15 minutes. But then he did something interesting. Before they drowned, he rescued them. He let them rest, gave them a break, then he put them back in the water. The next time they were dropped in, they swam for over 60 hours. Once they knew survival was possible, they refused to give up. Most people drown because they don't believe help is coming. But when you learn to swim knowing you'll figure it out, that's the difference between surviving and not even trying. Because the real difference is, it's not strength that will keep you going, it's how much hope do you have.
Help me with this question. Why do we keep gravitating towards this thing called marriage?
Right. We are a pair-bonded species.
Okay.
We're a pair-bonded species. We're like wood storks. You know, and we wouldn't necessarily have to be a pair-bonded species.
Tell me what pair bond is.
Pair-bonded means that
write it for me in crayon.
That a couple gets together and they want to be faithful to each other naturally.
Okay.
They naturally want to be one-to-one, and they want it to last, and their dream is that's the person you're looking at as you're taking your dying breath. That's how humans are wired.
Okay.
Now, not every culture has done that.
Sure.
Not every society has been successful in that, but that's the natural proclivity of Homo sapiens.
Okay.
I think there's all this stuff about polyamory and stuff. That's all nonsense.
Right,
I mean,
right.
there are certain people who are different than the norm. There are certain people who have different psychology and maybe even different biology when it comes to that. But the vast majority of people are one-to-one pair bonded, and they want it to actually last. That is wired into us as a species. That is also, I believe, metaphysically a matter of natural law. And so even, by the way, an offshoot of this is that 97% of people, including young people who are the most emancipated, progressive people morally you can imagine, 97% say that adultery is morally wrong all the time. Now, that's way higher than the number of people who say that prostitution is wrong.
Right.
So people believe that, people want to be one-to-one, and they believe that cheating's wrong, is the bottom line. And they believe those things so strongly that they want to memorialize that union. That's called marriage. Now, there's one step that goes further, that I think that people have a natural sense of the metaphysical, because again, the prefrontal cortex, the wiring of the brain is very interesting. If you interviewed Lisa Miller at Columbia, so she's the best psychologist, neuropsychologist on faith experiences. Okay. She talks about what actually happens in the brain with faith experiences. Okay. We have a sense of the divine. We just do. There are no, according to anthropologists, there are no organized civilizations that we've ever had any evidence of in human history that didn't worship.
Right.
We didn't all worship the same thing in the same way, but we're made to worship. And one of the things that people feel about their marriage, they want it to be magic. Now, love is a right hemisphere thing where all the ineffable mystical things happen in our brains. And one of the things that we feel is that pair bond, that union is an antenna to the divine. And that's what you and I believe as Christian men, by the way, because we believe that the reason that divorce is unnatural is because you're pulling apart, you're tearing apart the ability. Your completion with your wife is the way that she understands God's love and you understand God's love. God's love for you is transmitted vis-a-vis your wife.
Correct.
That's how people feel about it, even if they don't have the theology behind it. That's Genesis. That's Genesis 2. Yeah. That's the Yahwistic understanding of God, is that man is made to be with woman and vice versa. And they're one flesh, and it's his rib. Yeah. And that's real stuff. It's actually kind of, and that's a visceral metaphor for actually how we see it. And we only understand God when we have this holy vocation. Okay. And most people, that's how we feel. So the point is that for whatever reason, if you're religious, you're not religious, people are wired to feel that. And they want to make that as official as they possibly can, whether they're religious or not.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just the natural state of being for Homo sapiens. For the vast majority of Homo sapiens. And there's anomalous stuff. I mean, in my church, we have priests that are celibate.
Of course,
and there's some people who believe that they can be...
But that idea is, I'm going to sacrifice this thing.
It's a sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's some people who believe you can be in love with, 15 people in a bicycle at the same time. I don't know, whatever, right? Sure. But that's not the norm. Yeah. That's just not the way people are wired. This is natural. This is natural law. is how people are meant to be, most people.
That's a much more complex, yet a much simpler answer than I was thinking.
Yeah,
There's just a gravitational pull towards this thing.
This is human anthropology.
Yeah.
This is basic human anthropology, is that we're not supposed to be alone. We're not lone wolves. We're wired to complete each other. And we're wired for love.
And if you're going to pull apart a culture, a society, it would be to question that very architecture.
That's what you go after. That's what you go
very
after.
architecture.
If you want to reorder everything, you start with couples.
Yeah, pull them apart.
You pull them apart. You attack romantic love.
Mm-hmm.
You attack marital love. That's how you do it.
It's not your life that's a problem, it's the meaning you've attached to it. I had so many people over the decades when I was doing Date with Bessie. When I started out, a lot of people got out of the Vietnam War, and a lot of veterans were pretty messed up. And interestingly enough, they would come there and I would read people's forums. So I'm reading these forums and I read this man and he's describing being in Vietnam, and he described having his best friend running about 5 feet ahead of him into the bush, and he had a landmine. His body blew into 1 million pieces, and his brains and body literally were dripping all over his body. And he said it was the most horrific event of his life, and what it meant to him was man's inhumanity to man is unfathomable, and you can never trust anyone. Anytime you could be hurt. And I started reading another one. It's virtually the exact same story. In fact, I think I've read this one already, until the last part. Guy's in Vietnam. This guy was in a foxhole with his best friend, and his buddy takes a bullet through the brain. His brain matter goes all over his body. Unbelievably traumatic experience, but here's the difference, the meaning. He said what it meant to him is that life is fragile, and whoever you love, you should love them fully every day, because you never know when it's your last. Are these people gonna have the same life or a radically different life? Which one? It has nothing to do with the event, it's the meaning. One was the victim, the other one was, I will find the way. Love is the basis of my life. And because of that, he interpreted the same experience differently. No one triggers you. You trigger you. When you start to realize nothing is being done to you, you're the one doing it all. That's when you start to liberate yourself. Anyone on the outside who's a trigger is only a trigger you're using. You could say, how I trigger myself is I see these people and I picture, or I say to myself, or I do this in my body, because that's how it really happens. There's no one to blame. Someone else can go by and have the same experience and not be triggered. So you're doing it. But we somehow forgot we're the one in charge here. And then you become enslaved to some pattern instead of waking up to your own true consciousness. No one escapes extreme stress. The only question is, do you use stress or let stress use you? Do you create more stress by what you do in your own head? Or do you de-stress and move forward and use it as rocket fuel to make your life greater?
Here's the digital manufacturing center that I built, or I'm starting to build. This is a 3D printer. These two are 3D printers, but they're also CNC mills and laser engravers. This is a 40-watt laser. It can cut 0.6 inches in one pass. And how do you turn this thing off? But in all seriousness, the street main for our natural gas is on the other side of that wall. So if you hear something big go boom, you know what happened.
better than it did for me. Oh, let go, let go, let go. Oh, man. That's what me and the boys used to do in high school. Okay, let go, let go. That's enough. We never did that high of an RPM, dude. We did 3,000, not 5.
That was great.
Not as high of an RPM. I don't know how good of a shot I got. I mean, like, it might not have been facing up. I was kind of freaking out. We never did it that hard back in high school.
I've never done this before, so I don't know.
Okay, let go, let go, let go. Okay. Yeah, we're done. I don't want the cops to come.
So I guess if I have to start, Merry Christmas. And I thought, it'd be a cool idea to incorporate gratefulness into our Christmas message or Christmas video. So I wrote, I'm grateful for being allowed to do extensive remodeling and home repairs to fix things wrong with the house, many of which needed to be done for 20 to 30 plus years, and I think it's really cool that I've been allowed to do that. And it's worked out pretty nice to improve quality of life and different things like that, and upgrades too, to go beyond just fixing things and go further than that.
I am thankful for our loved ones this year. I'm thankful for God's provision for us and meeting our needs. And I'm thankful for seasons as they bring growth and change to our lives. That's what I'm thankful for this year.
I'm grateful for my family, which has grown this year. My new daughter-in-law, Jamie, and their new baby on the way. So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for just being alive and being able to enjoy the growth of my family. I enjoy my faith, and I'm very grateful for my church and wonderful, wonderful friends that are all over the country, even all over the world. So I feel like it's been a very blessed year for me.
I'm thankful for God's faithfulness and His grace and His mercy that He's shown me, and the way that He has changed my heart through His Spirit and through Scripture, and from my wife, Jamie, and the way that He's blessed us beyond belief and beyond what we deserve. And yeah, I'm thankful that He is faithful when maybe we aren't always. And I'm thankful for His continued providence and sovereign hand in our lives. So I trust that He'll continue to have His sovereign hand in our lives and direct our paths and fashion us into being more like Him. For health and sustaining this family. Too many blessings to count.
Fröhliche Weihnachten wünsche ich euch und einen guten Rutsch ins neue Jahr.
That would be a great blooper. Because no one would understand it.